My favorite Chopin piece is the Polonaise-Fantasy at the moment.
I don't need to think. It's Polonaise-Fantasy and the Fourth Ballade.
I can't. I have to say Polonaise-Fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one.
For me, this piece has. I mean, I don't understand it fully. I don't think anybody can really understand it fully.
If you did, it might not be your favorite.
Yeah, but I just love the mystery about it. I love exploring it and just listening to recordings and how people try to capture whatever is there. So yeah, I love this piece. And
I absolutely fell in love with the Polonaise-Fantasy. It was a new piece for me. I started it.
You didn't love it before?
I didn't know it before. I mean, I didn't play it, and I think I fell in love with it through playing.
Sometimes you have to get to know somebody.
Exactly.
Before
yes.
you
go on
develop
a dinner
feelings
date
for them.
before you go on a second date.
Well, because other pieces you can just see from afar. You know, you see them from a distance.
Exactly.
And you say, "Wow, that's a nice one."
The Scherzi, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but Polonaise-Fantasy definitely takes some,
it does.
getting to know.
It does.
And then it can become absolutely.
I agree.
What do you love about it?
My favorite thing about it, and I think this is the thing that I say about it when I perform it. I gave a concert a few weeks ago, and I played the Polonaise-Fantasy, and I usually give a disclaimer, saving the weirdest piece for last because, people say it's a very strange piece. And afterwards, an old lady came up to me and said, I didn't think it was a weird piece at all. I thought it was very, very straightforward. It was a man at the end of his life trying to encapsulate an entire life of experiences into one piece. And I thought that was very profound and very beautiful. And it really is, it's a life. It's an entire lifetime in about 13 minutes. And that's why I love playing it, because it's really different each time.
And it ends positively. I was talking to Garrick about this.
I think so, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's up for interpretation, but at
The
least
last
it's
chord.
not the fourth ballade.
It's not the fourth ballade. The last chord is kind of everything, an entire lifetime in one chord.
So I am obsessed with death in music, and there are times where I think the final motion of a piece that I interpret as being death goes down, and that's Brahms' Opus 118, number 6. It has this very drawn-out E-flat minor chord, and throughout the entire piece, I've seen that Brahms piece, I see it as the man resisting death. There's
the
an
Dies
active.
Irae is
Oh yeah,
persistent in that,
and
yeah.
it's this old man who's really clinging on to the last bits of life that he has left, and the ending is I see it as a death rattle, and in that case, I feel it downwards. There's one reach upwards, and then everything comes back down to reality. But I think in the Polonaise-Fantasy, it's so much more radiant, and it's so much. I mean, the key is way different, but also just it feels like we've reached a triumphant revelation rather than sort of crashing back down to cold, dark reality. And so when we have that, the way it ends, it sounds like it's about to give up, and then we suddenly have this fortissimo chord, and that I see as a star, or maybe a soul going into the sky, and then there's a star that lights up for that soul.
So he dies in the piece.
I don't know. I'm still figuring that out.
Do you feel that his later works actually have a kind of optimism to them, a kind of hopefulness?
That's interesting, because if I'm bringing it back to the Polonaise-Fantasy, that last note, I had...
yeah, tell us how you interpreted
I think
it.
I was actually talking with Nathaniel, not exactly about this piece, but about interpretations in general. And I was saying, we were both agreeing that I think our internal emotions on the piece is very personal. It stays similar throughout. But for me, at least, I come up with the Tale of Despero the other day, but those are all very new. So a month ago, I was reading, there's a science novel called All Tomorrows. It's kind of morbid. It's kind of like a horror dystopian science novel about the evolution of humanity into something that's inhuman, and they become star people, and this is only at the beginning of the novel. It gets way crazier down the line, but I think this idea of rebirth, similar to death actually in a way. So I see the end of the Polonaise-Fantasy as it is triumphant, but I feel that trill, it's so sinister. And even in the beginning with the octave da 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 da, there's definitely a sinister note of something sinister that has stayed throughout the piece, despite how triumphant it is at the end. So I will hold that note because I feel for me personally, I agree that it's kind of jubilant, but I think that I'm obviously you can't do crescendo on a piano on a single note, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I am definitely pushing more into that piano.
But also, before Angeline, you got up here, William was saying he has kind of a cosmic interpretation of it. So he's sort of seeing it as this genesis moment at the beginning, creation of the universe type thing.
I think it's a very cosmic piece. So I think I'm debating between interpretationally whether the beginning is like the creation of a universe or whether it's more humanistic. Because for Chopin in his last years, either I think he has like these crazy, because he has all this time, well, not really all this time, but what else is he doing but imagining things and imagining new sounds? And especially the fact that that opening line sounds so different on our modern piano than, his play-els, because our pedal sustain works differently.
It's so rich.
It's
on our
super
pianos,
rich.
yeah.
And I had a masterclass with Orly Shaham on this, and she was saying her interpretation was that's like overtones, like spawning out of this original chord. And I think that was really big for me, where I feel like the entire piece is contained in that first yodom, bom, and everything just kind of spawns from that. And
so it is a kind of moment of creation.
I think so.
With all the element, I guess all the elements started forming after hydrogen and helium. I'm not going to make you name the periodic table again like last time, but no. What's beautiful about that is there's a whole other way to read it, which is biographical, and one could pour into Chopin's letters and biographies and read it as, I'm not capable of doing this. I'd have to email Alan Walker to find out the details, but it's interesting that there's so many different ways to develop a conception of a work like this. And one can have a cosmic view. You said in the video that we made together for my YouTube channel that you sort of sense it as a 0 to 1 moment. Is that moment of creation?
Yes, I think so. And I don't know, it really is, because Chopin, he sent a letter, or many letters, but in one of the letters, he's like, I'm writing a sonata for piano and cello, a barcarolle, and a little something else that like, not a little something else. I don't know if he used the word little, but he calls it like something else. I think he himself at the beginning, when he was sketching it, is like, not exactly sure how to classify it. And, Polonaise-Fantasy even sometimes seems a little inadequate to describe the true scope of this piece. But I think it's definitely, there is something special going on here, undeniably.
When did you discover Polonaise-Fantasy? Is this a long time obsession of yours, or is it something you more recently discovered?
It's funny because when I first heard this piece like a long time ago, I didn't think much of it. I just thought, it definitely didn't catch my attention. I think it was really after I started working on it myself that I actually really fell in love with this piece.
That often happens, and I think with some of the more complex pieces, sometimes it requires living with it and actually trying it out. I mean, for me, it was because I'm a recording nut. I remember I had an old Horowitz CD where the Polonaise-Fantasy was on just a compilation of different performances, and I loved the heroic Polonaise, and I was like, what is this Polonaise-Fantasy thing? It's like twice as long. I liked some of the moods, but like I couldn't follow it for a while. Do you feel like you get it now? Will you understand the structure, the narrative? How do you sort of think about this piece as a form?
I feel like the Polonaise-Fantasy, it can become really fragmented. But I think like as I sat with it over time, I started to connect it now, kind of like a train, like a line together. But I do think that a lot of the challenge in this piece lies in how fragmented it is, because there's so many different elements to it.
That's right. I mean, it does feel, to the unsuspecting listener or a new listener, that it's kind of a one non sequitur after another. That's part of what's a fantasy about it. There is a sense that there's a free association going on. On the other hand, now that I've heard it so many times, I know what sections come next, and they feel like they're necessary. They have to happen. Do you feel that way, or do you like the sense that, hey, this could go anywhere, almost like an improvisation, and I choose to play this next? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you try to play with a sense of spontaneity and improvisation, or do you want it to sound like you're telling a story that you've told many times, which can also be very effective?
I think it depends on which sections, actually. I think some of them are kind of like, it's almost like it was improvised out of the previous section, and some are kind of more like a variation on it. It's just so beautiful. It's so colorful. Like, the amount of harmony changes that happens even within a bar. Like, I feel like it goes through so many emotions and colors. I think it's like a kaleidoscope. I think that's what makes it so unique.
So to me, sorry to get all deep, but it is late. That like da 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 da, that's just something that emerges from the innermost, when everything else breaks down physically. Like, what is that? What is this thought and this emotion and feeling that is so pure that emerges.
It's weirdly hopeful, the way the theme transforms.
It's so
harmonically.
sad. It
is
actually
very
makes me so sad.
Well,
and that's exactly how I felt today and yesterday. I'm at that point in my Polonaise-Fantasy life.
It's a sad piece for you. Oh,
It's a
it
sad
might be the
piece.
saddest piece ever.
I think it's a really sad piece, and it actually made me cry yesterday when I was practicing it. I was also really stressed out. The coda made me cry, not that part.
Yeah, it might be. It's this
been a
sort of
tough week.
It's like this life.
I'm really tired.